Coming to you live from deep within a dry and windy, and also sometimes Sunday. Well, it's not Sunday yet. Radioactive meme land. We are the survivors of the alt-right apocalypse. The few, the brave, the bitchy. Once more wading into battle against the froggy hordes with Rant Zerker number fuckity fuck. I mean, 93. JMac. Yes, 93. Yes, JMac and the Misogynerds. Thank you. Thank you for mansplaining for that. Or, because I wasn't going to get it right.
I was actually going to say it, but my mic was muted, so I didn't get a chance. Dr. Randomercam was too fast. He was too quick.
Oh yeah, fuckity fuck is Canadian for we're doing this again.
Yeah. Well, it's Alison, I just want to make a comment.
Uh-oh.
For somebody who stumbles over words and names, I just find it highly interesting that you have such a tongue twister of an intro that you read out every time.
And fuck up every time.
Is it like self-sabotage or what?
I figure we should start off on the right foot. Make everybody make it plain, make it known that we don't actually have any kind of we have Brian, but he's an artist. So he's good at what he does, but we don't have like a team of people who've been trained as technicians to help smooth out the bumps, as it were.
We have production quality. What we don't have is professionalism.
Maybe that's the thing. We don't have professionalism.
Which is just as well, because professionalism is boring. So
yeah, okay. So if you've been living under a rock, let me give you a rundown on what's happening on YouTube. And also apparently on Karen's desk, as she rattles her keys, opens a freaking cigarette box. Yeah, thank you. Google doesn't like our kind. No, who wouldn't? I mean, we're charming. We're charmingly unpolished. Oh, hey! You're back from laundry.
I got here just in the middle of your fuckity fuck intro. Apparently the people in the stream cannot hear Mike's voice.
Oh.
So maybe Mike needs to look at the OBS and make sure that the correct...
Thank you very much.
There you go.
All right, there we go. Okay, thank you. And you do a great job, despite the fact that you're an artist.
I'm here to help.
Yes. Okay, so Google doesn't like our kind, and we'll be reducing our ability to use its platform to advance our free speech. It could be that they'll just ignore us because we're small potatoes, but they've already given us 2 strikes that completely reduced our ability to live stream, which is why we had to change to a secondary channel and do all kinds of acrobatic workarounds. And because we don't want to go through that again, we have created a channel, or I have created a channel, let's not fuck around with that, called badgerfeed.com, which compiles all of the RSS feeds for various activities. So our podcasts, our reduced podcasts, the things that I do. I've had requests to put Karen's stuff in there, and I might consider it. So it's basically going to be you just go there and you can find what we're up to and what we're saying, all in one place, badgerfeed.com. And just go there, sign up for notifications. Then when YouTube just drops your notifications to Honey Badger Radio, it won't matter because you'll be getting notifications through badgerfeed.com. Someone's already said, oh yes, it works. Even though they're not getting notifications through YouTube, they are getting through that site. Okay, also, this stream will be gamified because you cannot pay me to listen to JMac's fantabulist farting. Actually, you can. After 45 minutes, if we don't have a super chat in the queue, we're going bye-bye to the after show. All right. I think that's enough, isn't it? Go to badgerfeed.com and give us super chats. And I'm going to be like shilling the super chats because now I've demonetized the channel. So you're not going to see any ads anymore on new Honey Badger Radio videos. We are basically down to super chat revenue and YouTube Red, which is probably exactly the way YouTube wants it. Because suddenly, after I demonetize the new videos, YouTube is somehow we're getting more subscribers and we're getting more reach. I don't know why, but and it could be just a coincidence. Demonetize the videos. They're no longer being played in front of ads. YouTube isn't going to have to worry about showing our stuff and some advertisers seeing it and saying, "Holy shit, they're a bunch of assholes. I don't want my stuff on their platform." And then suddenly, we're actually getting more views and subs. Anyone want to chime in with what the fuck?
I have no idea. All I know is I finally managed to turn back on the notifications. I used to have it so that anybody who replied to a comment of mine on somebody else's video or in a comment thread that I had commented in, I would get a notice of that. And that made things really easy because it gives you a direct link to that particular comment. And so you could carry on a debate. And somehow when they came out with this new fangled format thing, they turned off those notifications, and it took me for fucking ever to figure out where and how I could turn them back on, so that I could actually, so as far as I know, for an entire week there, go away, dog, there is nothing there for you. For about a week, people thought that I was dropping out of conversations because I had no more arguments or something. And yeah, so, because I don't know, like going back to 4,000 comment section.
Fuck, my mic is fucked. Because I was laughing my ass off when you said I had no more arguments. Yeah, right.
I know. It's
woman
hilarious.
Does not shut up.
I know, and it's like so. But I'm not going to go sift through 4,000 comments to find the one, right? Not my comment, but somebody else left a comment, and then I commented on that. I replied to it, and all of those comment threads are collapsed. So it would mean 4,000 comments of having to open them all up and figure out exactly, and scroll down.
She's not enough of an autist for that, folks.
I'm just not. And I don't have that kind of eidetic memory so that I can remember every username of every person that I've ever freaking locked horns with online. So
okay, Joey Jojo gives us $5. Feminism needs to stop shaming, demonizing awkward men, and they need to stop demonizing awkward male sexuality. Can't wait for new Senran Kagura game. Ugh.
Oh,
you
yeah.
You just wanted to get that shill in, didn't you?
I support that. I support Senran Kagura. And also, no matter what kind of man you are the enemy of feminism. No matter what kind of man you are.
And awkward male sexuality. I mean, probably a lot of us wouldn't be here without that.
Oh, yeah. No, I hear you.
Regarding the Google conundrum, all I can say is I would never use reverse psychology. I would never use reverse psychology because reverse psychology doesn't work. Do you hear me?
Are you reverse psychologizing there, Doctor?
I would never use reverse psychology. I never.
All right.
Okay, I believe you. That smile totally sells it. Totally.
Have very meta, Dr. Randomercam.
All right, shall we get into this? The adorable misogyny of the Big Bang.
Well, I mean, we're going to have to get into it at some point, and I'd really, really, really love to just
make more noises.
No, maybe if I make more noises. If I like it's like the strategy of the when you're at a bar and you're playing pool and you're winning and then you start to suck and it's getting late and the bar is like half an hour from closing and you think, well, if I just stand here and chalk my cue for half an hour, then they'll kick us out and we can call it a draw. And so maybe if we just waste enough time, we won't actually be able to get to this atrocious video.
Wow, that is a really elaborate stalling tactic. Okay, let's just do it. Okay, whoever has the little triangle, hit it. I think it's Mike. Yeah.
Yes, it is me, and I will now hit the thing, and I hope it's loud enough. Chat, please tell me if it isn't.
This is tag 2. Take 1. Mark?
All right, gang, here we go. The Big Bang Theory is the most popular show on television.
Oh, God. Really?
Does anyone want to take a moment there? A moment of silence for this state of affairs.
For this reality, for this timeline, for this particular quantum splitting of the freaking universe. Yeah.
I think it's actually hopeful. It's hopeful thing that The Big Bang Theory is the most popular show on television, because even though these guys are often portrayed as dorks and socially inept and all of those things, right? At least they're portrayed as smart and useful, right? And often smarter than the women that they're dealing with. Not always, but often.
I think Brian might have some words on that.
Big Bang Theory. Well, I mean, I didn't watch it too much. I watched a little bit of it, like way early on. Other than the premise being a bit unique, it's not really much different from most sitcoms. They tend to be, I don't know, passably funny. This has more like geeky references. I think the best way to sum it up and I'm not a huge fan, so take this with a grain of salt. Big Bang Theory is a show about smart people made for dumb people. That's what I think it is. It's basically a show about nerd culture made by people who are not actually in nerd culture. But they've observed it from the outside. That's my take.
They're sort of like Peggy and the Mist, huh?
It's like like the writers were like, oh, do you know nerds like this? Oh, yeah. Or like they may have like some vague recollection of being like that. And they're like, oh, yeah, I totally know what this is like. I'm going to write about my friend, basically. And they do, but they don't actually, they do it in such a easily digestible way.
Well, yeah.
As to essentially create a sitcom that the average person, Westerner or American, can sit down and enjoy. So, I mean, I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think it's malicious. Nothing like that. I mean, shows have to be like this. You have 20 minutes to get some laughs out of people with some, these stereotypical characters, and then you move on. This is how they do sitcoms. So,
well, it's kind of like Roseanne was this sort of. It was that show about a working class, borderline working poor family, right? Who were a little bit rednecky, and it appealed to lots and lots and lots of people, not just the demographic that they were supposedly representing there. Dog, I am going to kill you.
All right. So Hodge Gay says, or Hodge Gay. Sorry, Hodgie. They don't need to consult scientists. The point is the nerds being hapless around chicks. The target audience doesn't give a fuck about actual science.
Well, of course not.
All right, let's do next 20 seconds.
The science of the show isn't science. It's science.
Science.
Yeah, it's Bill Nye science.
I was gonna say that. God damn it.
Science. Okay.
It centers on 4 male friends who are characterized by essentially every Hollywood stereotype about geeks and nerds in existence.
All right, just a few more feet and...
Okay, I just want to say that this guy here is not as big a stereotype as you might think, because my guy works with a nerd who intentionally gets that haircut over and over and over and over again.
Actor, by the way, does a very good Nicolas Cage.
So, okay. So it's just a set of bad stereotypes for some lazy writing.
Well, so's every other sitcom out there.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to do 13 episodes with just enough jokes to make the average American laugh. It's not gonna be like Shakespeare.
Laugh?
It'll play in Peoria.
Okay, laugh or just be slightly amused to oneself.
Slightly amused.
Okay, yeah, because there's a difference between, laughing out loud, which I often do at Karen's antics, and watching a sitcom where it's just doing it because I don't want to think about something horrible. And with that dark thought, let's do a little bit more.
Gentlemen, the gates of Elzebub.
Good Lord. Don't panic. This is what the last 97 hours have been about.
Leonard, Sheldon, Howard, and Raj all lack most of the traits traditionally associated with leading men in Hollywood.
Okay.
They're not conventionally handsome.
Okay, but... Okay. Now, they're not conventionally handsome. Actually, all of these guys, except maybe the dude with the hair, stop it, Doug, would clean up fairly well. Just saying.
they're Hollywood ugly. They're Hollywood homely.
Yeah, and the only one who's actually even remotely, homely is the dude with the even worse fashion sense than the others, and the even worse hair. But I do want to say that, like, socially awkward, and I said this in the ad, socially awkward is essentially part of the definition of nerd, right? Like, when you have an absolutely, like, Mensa level intellect and you have social skills and you fit in with everybody, people don't call you a nerd, they call you brilliant, right? Like, being socially awkward or a little bit, geeky or dorky or whatever you want to call it, right? Uncomfortable around people, introverted, not necessarily the most charming man in the room. That's as far as I can tell, that's part of the main ingredients of being a nerd.
Well, what's
Correct me
interesting
if I'm wrong.
No, what's interesting, you're not wrong. And also what's interesting to me is that he's describing these characters as being not part of hegemonic masculinity. So I'm wondering what he's setting up for his obvious skewering of the misogyny. So let's do another 20 seconds.
They're not confident, and they're definitely not athletic. What they are dorky, insecure fanboys who are plagued with a wide variety of anxieties, illnesses, and awkward personality quirks. They also happen to be the perfect embodiment of a media trope which I call the adorkable misogynist. Adorkable misogynists are male.
Whatever they are what women want to see. This is a point, because this is TV, right? These are not creator-driven shows. They're audience-driven shows. They're market-driven, focus group-driven shows. If you're on sort of YouTube and you've ever looked at your audience ratios of 90% male, which everyone has, and you thought to yourself, where are all the women? They're watching television, and they're watching fucking DVD box sets of shit like The Big Bang Theory. Every sitcom you see on TV is a moneymaker for female audiences, just like Michael Bay movies are a moneymaker for male audiences. So, Johnny, mate, feel free to turn up at the next Big Bang Theory focus group and tell Chuck Lorre that you think his characters are misogynists. And he'll go, really, Johnny? Only 5,000 women have already told me that. 50 million women have bought the Poxy DVD box sets of those misogynists. What does that tell you, Johnny? It tells you women love misogynists.
Can I just point something out? All right, maybe what's happening here is what women love is the idea that men who are misogynists are losers, or at least defined by this situation. They like the social awkwardness associated with, and misogyny tends to be something that's like, oh, you put your foot in the mouth, right? Because everybody knows that women are wonderful.
I don't think that women look at this and see 4 misogynist guys.
Yeah, that's true too. It's entirely possible that they don't see any misogynist guys in here.
I mean, they see guys, and here's why I think it would appeal to women, is these guys are Hollywood ugly, right? Which means that they're actually reasonably attractive. They're all very smart, and they have a certain amount of status, measurable via some hierarchy somewhere, right? They're harmless. They're cute in the way baby gorillas are cute, which is sort of not quite cute, but some reasonable facsimile thereof, right? They're not dangerous. They're not threatening. And they behave in ways that women find funny. That's why women would like this show.
Okay, and secondarily, I thought I was just throwing that out there because the thing is that he puts this out that these men are not part of this hegemonic masculinity. They're sort of losers according to that sphere of the traditional masculine man's man. And then they're also supposedly misogynist. I mean, he hasn't really proven that they are misogyny. He's just asserted it. So I can't tell if if he has any evidence for it. We'll find out. What I wanted to also bring up is something that Brian told me, and so it's sort of secondhand hearsay about the sitcom, is that the women still have the social intelligence.
Well,
And
that's the whole thing. That's the whole thing is the women have the upper hand because they have social intelligence. Even though these are brilliant men, they have their status and all of those things. They're not a threat to women on the show, and they're not a threat to women who are watching.
Okay, and then the other thing that Brian told me is that when they brought in the female nerds, the male nerds never actually got even the being smarter than the women, because the female nerds were, of course, smarter than the men. Because women are always...
They were at least their equal.
Yeah.
And they were more... they seemed to at least be their equal in terms of their intellect, and in some cases they had more. And they also had the fact that they were female made them like they were written into situations where we were expected to sympathize with them, whereas the male counterparts would be more often than not the butt of the joke. Because part of why people watch The Big Bang Theory is to watch the hilarity ensue with a bunch of really socially awkward guys try to navigate, you know, a social world. That's like part of the premise of the show, right?
Yeah.
So with the female nerds, that doesn't really happen.
I just find it really interesting that Mackintosh like points out that these are like stereotypical nerds, you know, stereotypical social awkwardness, blah blah blah, right? When that's essentially, you know, a main ingredient for nerdiness, and it's also a main ingredient for the appeal of the show, is that you're watching essentially, you know, this show actually reminds me a lot of, you guys must remember the show Third Rock from the Sun.
I like that show. That was good.
I like that show too.
But essentially what these nerds are representing are the alien family in human form, right? Except it's a bunch of alien buddies. They just don't quite get how humans work socially, how all of these things are done, right? They get the physics and they get
the fish
all
out
of
of
the
water
science
thing.
Yeah, and so I think that, and so you couldn't have these nerds be socially savvy and have any kind of show, right? Like it's the whole idea of not using those stereotypical nerdy, socially awkward traits would mean that you just have...
Yeah, but here's the thing. On Third Rock from the Sun, one of the things I liked about it is the commander was just as much as a fucking loon, if not more, than the others. So the female character was also seen as being sort of socially inept and wacky, loony, and there was comedy in that as well. And with this, it sounds like once they introduce the female nerds, that sort of goes out the window, because they have to be both as the intellectual equal of the male nerds and also socially superior, like the every woman Peggy was initially.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. Actually, that was one of the funnest things about Third Rock from the Sun, was that the security officer, the most masculine character, ends up in the woman's body, and it behaves like a security officer who is hyper masculine in a woman's body, but somehow really likes the fact that she has boobs and, you know, looks good in a dress. And so, I mean, like, that was like a super fish out of water thing there, even more so than with the other characters, I think. So,
but she was intended to be a character that had foibles that you laughed at, because this is what's really hilarious about sitcoms and comedy on TV. It's something that my father actually pointed out to me. He said that there's no screwball female characters anymore. And I mean, in the Third Rock in the Sun, I believe, came out in the 90s and ended before the 2000s. And even before then, if you go back even further, there were screwball female characters like Lucille Ball. They're just ridiculous characters who got into situations of their own making and then proceeded to make it worse and worse and worse. And that isn't the case anymore. It's like the number of female characters is sort of reduced.
Well, I think actually, honestly, in the 90s was the golden age of sort of that age of women demanding respect, but still being sitcom writers being willing to write them fucking up and being ridiculous, right? What was a prime example was Deborah on Everybody Loves Raymond, when she went to she went and got a job at a marketing firm and presented her idea for an ad campaign, and it was shot down, and she just lost her fucking mind, and just like completely embarrassed herself, and her husband Ray had to actually go smooth things over, and even though she was fired and all of this, right? And it was just like, so you literally have these little glimpses still in the 90s, in the early 2000s, of female characters who are not the perfect woman who can handle anything and never fucks up and never embarrasses herself and never goes overboard and all of those things, right? And if that's the way, because when I was watching this show, back when I had TV, there weren't, I mean, the only female character was the hot blonde across the hall, right? Really. And there were no female nerds on the show to speak of. So, well, that and Sheldon's mother. But, so you essentially had, a woman she's socially savvy, but she's academically clueless, right? So not perfect. And then you had this domineering, complete freak show of a mother, right, as well. So not perfect. And so if these nerd girls who've been introduced onto the show since I stopped watching it, right, if they're 100% perfect and pristine and in all the ways these guys are, and then on top of that, they are charming and can navigate social situations and all of that stuff, right? That's kind of a dick move on the part of the writers.
Yeah. But let's get a little bit more. Actually, I'm going to say General Jack Ripper gives us $5 and says, "I bought this super chat so you would read it. Ha ha! Take that. I am deeply offended by the fact that you purchased this super chat so I would have to read it. I'm going to take this. I'm going to take this to my grave. General Jack Ripper,
non-consensual reading.
You are my nemesis now. Don't you dare put through any more super chats, because I'll make Brian read them. So there. Okay. Mike.
Male characters whose geeky version of masculinity is framed as both comically pathetic and endearing.
Well, wait, what's on top of them?
Wireless webcams, wait below.
And it's their status as nerdy nice guys that then lets them off the hook for a wide range of creepy, entitled, and downright sexist behaviors.
You may want to put on slacks.
What?
Okay.
Wait.
Can we, because it's impossible to hear what the characters are actually saying while he's narrating over top of them. But, okay, if these are guys who've just like decided that they're going to put webcams on these little remote control cars and she just happens in coincidentally, right? And they're seeing stuff on the screen that they know that she might not be happy with them seeing. And then they say, just letting you know, you should maybe put on some slacks, right? That's not being creepy and entitled and trying to like look up her skirt. That's actually avoiding looking up her skirt.
Yeah, this evidence is not just okay. And you know what? We're coming from this completely clean slate, Mr. J. So all we have to go on is the evidence you're presenting. The evidence you're presenting does not support your thesis. You should use evidence that supports your thesis directly. Like when you make an assertion, the evidence that you use to make that assertion should support it. I shouldn't have to go to this scene and find out, oh wait, it does support. It should be in the scene. I mean, that's a reasonable expectation, isn't it? That when somebody puts something like this together, that they put together the evidence they think that supports their thesis?
Yeah, well, I mean, like if I could hear what they were saying while Mackintosh was talking and the dude with the hair, was saying, "Oh, I'm gonna see up her skirt," right? This is great.
Yeah, no, I believe I've seen this episode. They're not controlling the cars. They gave it to the control of the internet. The joke here being that the internet is full of is full of people who love women's bodies. So misogyny.
And want to see their vaginas. Oh, wait. So when a woman puts a feminist puts a whole wall of vaginas in a art
gallery,
or like a college campus, that is a
Her
celebration.
fingernails.
Or on her fingernails, that's a celebration of the female body. But this is not. I mean, fair enough. But they are giving her a warning. They're like, this is a thing. They're gonna go take these things wherever they go. You might wanna. Although I don't know why she doesn't just turn them over. Like, is she that dumb?
Yeah, I know, and it's like, okay, so why not just step over them briefly and
Well, not even that. Like, you just step back, kneel down, flip the damn things over, and be like, okay, I'm done with this. I'm leaving, or go get the slacks.
Yeah.
Like, why is this suddenly can she not engage her agency? Oh, that's right. We have to take away women's agency. We can't focus on what she can do. We got to take it away so they can function as a measuring stick for men's actions.
Isn't this a diss? Isn't this a diss on every man other than these guys? Because these guys, like, it's the internet controlling these things. So it's a diss on
not just men. Because women are probably doing it too.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. But
the other thing.
The assumption is going to be that it's just men on the internet controlling these things, right? And that women
there are no women on the internet.
Yeah, exactly. No girls on the internet. But here's the thing. I mean, when they do like vision, those heat maps to what people look at in advertisement, if that was a whole bunch of women controlling those things, they would also be going up their skirt. In fact, they'd be more likely to be going up her skirt. So how is this against men? I mean, if you're positing that it's creepy that internet denizens who would be male or female are going to run after this woman and try to look up her fucking skirt, how does this become the misogyny of men?
Well, if
it was women, they'd probably go in the same direction and they'd be going, look, she's wearing Ugg boots. What a basic bitch. But same scene plays out.
But how more than that is it proof that these four men who essentially told her, no, you want to maybe get some slacks on, that they're misogynist, that they want to look up her skirt, that they're entitled, right? That they're getting away with some kind of creepy behavior. They're not. They're the guy, they're the bystander. They're the bystander intervener. Like, fuck.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But the thing is that this isn't quite an upskirt. This is a situation where somebody's observing media on the other side of a computer. And when women do that, they look at women's genitals more than men look at women's genitals. It's just a thing. True. So if it could easily be women controlling these things, and these guys are like, hey, you might want to put some slacks on, or you're going to get a lot of judgmental female commentary on your genitals. All right. Shall we move on?
So the idea is The Big Bang Theory is a misogynist show because it has jokes about how everyone on the internet is a misogynist. So
yeah.
What have you been doing with your career, Mackintosh?
Ooh, that's a zing. Burn.
World's nastiest misogynist, with the possible exception of your lady friend there. Let's carry on.
Now, in order to help explain how
did you see that?
Did you
see that? Okay, guys. Did you see that? The how they just were like, oh, what's going on now? The sort of puzzled curiosity that those four guys had. Those really obviously puzzled curiosity.
Yeah.
It was adding to the punchline.
But
like you get their sort of like muted reaction to her somewhat extreme reaction, and it just sort of like drives the humor home.
Yeah, because she's having an extreme reaction because she's like, "Oh my god, I got to protect my lady parts," and they're like, "Oh, what is this strange human behavior?"
But
it has nothing to do with their sense of entitlement.
Yeah, no, and when you look at it, okay, if I were to see misogyny in a scene like that, it would be the fact that she's terrorized by these things that want to look up her skirt, and she runs away as if like that's like the worst thing in the world. It's like, seriously? No! Oh, no, get away!
It is a sitcom, to be fair. It's supposed to have sort of farcical moments like that where it's ha ha.
Yeah, I know. But if I were going to look for misogyny in the scene, it would be the portrayal of her as being such a wimp.
Well, not
and
just
and a damsel.
Wimp, but incapable of solving the least puzzle. Like, just flip them over with your foot. Just be like, oh yeah, you want to have fun? Okay, I'm going to ruin your fun.
Tip them on their sides.
I'm going to flip these fucking things over, and then I'm going to piss all over them.
That's why it's a good thing that like the actual gender ideologues don't write the comedy for this show, because if she just did what you suggested, which would have been the things that makes the most sense and would invoke the least amount of feminist criticism, it would actually make it the least funny, in my opinion.
Probably. Okay, because it's actually, humor is a little bit about breaking boundaries by definition. So, okay, next 20 seconds there, good doctor.
We'll need to take a quick trip back in time to the 1980s. The year was 1984.
Oh, shit.
And one of the most popular summer movies was a film called Revenge of the Nerds.
Banana for the sake of banana, unless anyone wants to address this.
Well, so they're going to talk about Revenge of the Nerds, and of course, because Jonathan Mackintosh has a history of going back to old 80s movies and 70s movies and applying what he thinks are contemporary morals and sensibilities to them. So there are things that happen in Revenge of the Nerds that feminists today would go crazy over. Just absolutely insane. They call it, rape culture, all this shit. And so he's going to use Revenge of the Nerds, as well as, I think, nerdy characters from other films from the 80s, 16 Candles, and one other one to make his case. But again, removing the context of what this movie is, which is not, this is not a political statement. This is not, a PSA. This is a comedy about nerds. Essentially the little guy, the underdog, overtaking or becoming dominant in against the jock culture.
He links it to a lot of things, and at around 18 minutes, you'll never guess what he links it to.
Oh, we might not get to 18 minutes.
We probably won't get that far, but maybe we'll have to skip to there at the end, because it's you can probably guess it's topical.
Important.
Yeah.
Okay. Another 20 seconds. Oh!
These weren't the first socially awkward nerds to grace the big screen, but they did help popularize this type of character. Over the next few years...
Okay.
Banana.
This geeky guy archetype...
No. Okay, don't keep going. It's good, it's good.
Quickly gained traction in Hollywood.
How's it going?
And by the 1990s, it had become something of a mainstay in comedy entertainment. It's worth noting that this type of character is
weird science.
I actually...
You see what he's doing here, right?
Yeah.
He's basically showing these nerdy outcast kids, boys, that are in their awkward years, and they want what most people want. They want to find love. That's usually what percentage of all fictions revolve around romance? Probably way up in the 90s somewhere.
Love and sex in some way, yeah.
Yeah, love and sex is always it's in there somewhere. And so because they're seeking it out, but they're not good at doing it, and part of what's entertaining to watch is watching them struggle and stumble through that process. Mackintosh is using this to paint this dark picture of masculinity as even when it's nerdy. So it's not, he doesn't just hate the jocks. He hates the nerds too. And no matter where you sit in between.
Yeah, no matter what kind of man you are, you're a threat to women.
All right. I just okay, continue.
Nearly always white. Though there are a few rare exceptions.
But wait a second.
White has absolutely nothing to do with anything. But
is he taking a page from Susan Brown Miller's Against Our Will and connecting the the sexual entitlement of white men who lynched black with the sexual entitlement of the black men who were lynched. Like Susan Brown Miller literally connected Emmett Till, the black kid who was lynched, as having sexual entitlement over white women, and connect him to the white men who didn't actually, like, they didn't initiate the violence. The violence was initiated by the woman who alleged that Emmett Till hit on her, and she chased him with a gun and then got her brother and I believe her husband to come in to finish the job by lynching him and throwing him into a river. I'm guessing that Jonathan Mackintosh is taking a page from that book, and he's saying that nerds have sexual entitlement, and and we should also include black nerds in that, because obviously black men have this sense of sexual entitlement to white women.
Well, to women in general.
To women in general.
But, you know, like the whole idea of somebody who's socially awkward is somebody who actually puts it all out there, right? Who's you know, who doesn't actually play on subtleties, who doesn't, you know, spend some time flirting, who actually just, I mean, this was one of the biggest, most important scenes in When Harry Met Sally was when it was out there. And she said, you know, you can't take it back. He's like, okay, I take it back. I don't have feelings for you or whatever, right? And she said, it was too late. You can't take it back. And he says, why not? And she says, because it's already out there. It's already out there. You've ruined it. You've made this whole thing super uncomfortable, right? By not using euphemisms and subtleties and flirtations and would you like to come up and see my etchings and all of those things to keep your intentions hidden just well enough to grease the relationship, right? And keep things kind of under the table, right?
Ambiguous.
So, yeah, keep it all ambiguous enough that it would be really easy for me to give you the brush off without having to actually tell you what I'm brushing off, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I can just essentially let you know through my subtle actions with my plausible deniability that I don't want to have sex with you because you've never actually come out and said you wanted to have sex with me.
All right. John Doe says,
and the nerds don't do, like, they don't do that.
John Doe says, I think it's more that criticizing black people is racist. Well, not if you're feminist. Then it's just anti-misogyny and calling out entitlement. You can literally point to a black kid who was lynched and say that he had sexual entitlement.
Yeah, lynched for hitting on a woman.
Lynched for allegedly whistling at a woman, and that's sexual entitlement, folks. That's a free action. Like any racist misandry, any racism that's expressed through misandry is a free action by society and feminism. You can shoot a black man in the head as long as a black woman isn't affected by it or affected less. You can say that whatever happens to her is more important. So you don't have to care about what you're doing to black men. Not at all. You can do whatever you want to them. You can continue to treat them as badly as they've ever been treated throughout history, as long as you focus on black women. And then you can completely divide the community and create a whole bunch of social problems. But that's a conversation for another day. Oh, Yankees Cap says, punch up against those black men. Well, Susan Brown Miller was definitely punching up against Emmett Till, giving a good old punch in the chops.
To patriarchy.
To patriarchy. Yeah, corpse of a black man. Jesus Christ. Oh, and Yankee Cap says,
black boy, really.
Emmett Till is clearly white in the game of patriarchy. You're damn right he's clearly white. All black men are clearly white in the game of patriarchy. Would be nice if they woke up to that.
The black men are the whitest men, whenever it suits us.
That's true. It's scary as fuck. Anyway.
White.
Oh yeah, white.
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 Whitest.
White.
Whitest. White. You know that we're essentially the guy from what was it? The guy the one who's talking about racial IQ differences, the one who says white.
Oh, I don't remember.
I think that's what Brian is mocking. Am I wrong?
Wait, who are you talking about? What?
No, he's mocking the codger.
Oh.
White.
No.
White is one of the 14 words.
Yeah, white.
It's mockingly pronounced white children.
White.
White. I thought you were mocking the guy who was like the one that got sandboxed by Google, who was like all about the racial inclusion.
Is it Jared Taylor?
Maybe, yeah.
Is that the guy? The guy who made the race realism video? Yeah, he says white, but I think that people, it's just a meme at this point. White.
It's a Scottish thing. A lot of Scottish people say white.
White.
Yeah.
No, but that's
that's when I was in elementary school. I was taught that WH was pronounced wh.
White.
No, wh. As if it was HW. Wh.
White.
Okay. So white, while.
Cool whip.
Which cool whip.
White.
Right?
Okay, all right. Whedon. All right, let's this is ridiculous aside. Okay. Another 20 seconds, please, on the clock.
The Hollywood nerd is almost always positioned in opposition to the expected norms of macho manhood. This is usually accomplished through the juxtaposition with the jock archetype. When contrasted with hyper-masculine guys who perform a crude, aggressive form of manhood.
Okay, is anybody else like, dude, these are jokes. All jokes are exaggerated stereotypes. They're black and white. They're silly. They don't have nuance. I feel like I'm being like, you know, those a rabbi and a
Jew, a rabbi, and a priest walk into a bar, and the bartender says, "What is this? Some kind of joke?"
Yeah, exactly. I feel like I'm having a joke like that explained to me. It's like, dude, that's the joke.
The plight of the rabbi is such that.
Well, you know, the whole thing too, right? Like, because I've known a lot of, you know, like when I was in high school, I hung out with everybody. Like, I had friends in every single social group, you know, one or two of them. So I hung out with pretty much everybody, and jocks never acted like this. I mean, it was extremely, like, you really had to get a lot of alcohol in them before some of them would start behaving like this, right? And the nerds too. They weren't as socially, you know, awkward and I guess inept and maybe despairing of it as a lot of people would have thought, right? Like, they still managed to have friends and shit. Right. And so, I mean, and the 80s was when I was in high school. So this would all have applied to my world back then. And all of it was just caricature. Like the nerds were caricaturized. The jocks were caricaturized. Kelly LeBrock was fucking caricaturized. Don't hate me because I'm beautiful. Like, the whole thing was just a giant freaking goofy send up of tropes that were sort of relevant to our lives, but, you know, not in the way that they would be in a movie like this.
What's really interesting is laughing at these ridiculous stereotypes is one way that you bond and learn to see past them. Because you're not laughing at the people, you're laughing at the stereotype. Stereotype is ridiculous.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, how do you separate like actually nasty humor and just this kind of humor that just, it's like a social lubricant. So the jocks and the nerds can just sort of, they can have a laugh at each other's differences and otherwise get along. Like, how do you separate the two? And why? And this seems like it's more good-hearted, just being silliness, just poking fun. It might be a little bit nasty toward, but you know what? It's actually just as nasty towards the jocks too, because they're, in many cases, they're depicted as cruel. It might even be more, because they're depicted as cruel,
and dangerous and sexually
predatory.
Yeah,
and stupid. You know, they're savage. They're usually like Revenge of the Nerds, and these sorts of plots are basically about the underdog. At the time, the underdog were, you know, like intellectually superior, at least in the context of Revenge of the Nerds and other things like it. but socially awkward and unlucky in love men that were not like the jock types, which, got all the attractive women. They had the good hair, they had the good looks, they were athletic, they were popular, so they had every advantage, or at least that's what it appeared to be, and that was the point of Revenge of the Nerds. And there's another sort of subtle thing that I want to point out that Jonathan Mackintosh is setting up here that I just need to point out. He's basically saying, he says the nerds exist as opposition to the jock archetype. So the jock archetype, we know Jonathan Mackintosh dislikes it. I mean, like he doesn't see it as
That's so fucking stupid. That's like saying that the dog.
Okay, you're echoing.
As a species, in opposition to the cat archetype. No, jocks exist, nerds exist, right? Yes,
I don't want to hear what Brian has to say.
One another, but it exists for the purpose of countering that. No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. They just exist. But like what Jonathan Mackintosh he's setting the groundwork for, he's saying that when they tell stories about nerds, they usually exist as the rivals or opponents or the foil to the jock. Okay, so They set jocks and nerds against each other. Now, when they do stories like Revenge of the Nerds, where that is clearly the case, but obviously this has happened in lots of other stories too, the nerds are the good guys. They're the ones usually that, they outsmart, they outwit, they whatever. They get the girl from the jock, right? Because they're the underdog. They come up from underneath in whatever way. Jonathan Mackintosh is going to explain now how, despite the fact that the jock is clearly a bad person, he objectifies women, he engages in dangerous, risky behavior, he is the embodiment of toxic masculinity, he's they're usually white, whatever, they're heteronormative, they're homophobes, all of that stuff. This is basically jock stuff that he's already established in lots of other content. The nerds are no better. In fact, they're more insidious. That means that nerds are not actually the enemy of jocks, even though they're made that way in film, but rather neither of them are forgivable. They're actually both
redeemable,
bad.
yeah.
So yeah, neither of them are redeemable. And I get the sense that this is as an aside that, I mean, from this whole video, Mackintosh is projecting a lot of his own issues, but that's just my thinking. So the nerds are no better. And this is important because he's basically trying to say that no men, and I know I've already said this already, no men are forgivable. They're all guilty of original sin no matter what.
Okay, so point. Just going to get a little business in here. We're now at the hour where if there's no Snapchat up there, I'm closing this down. So make sure there's a Snapchat up there, and to sweeten the deal,
a super chat,
whatever the fuck it's called. Just you put the shekels in the box, and don't ask questions. So we are now do not have a Snapchat up, so I'm guessing we're gonna go
super chat,
whatever.
Damn it, Alison.
Yes, I got you. I was gonna sweeten the deal by saying whoever gives the largest single super chat donation could get a prize of some kind. But it looks like we can go. So let's end this and go to the after show. Goodbye, everyone. All right, is it restarted? I didn't think that okay.
Someone would take it to heart.
Okay, so are we back? Chat. Sorry, I didn't realize that someone would immediately take that to heart. It looks like we gotta do at least another. All right, give someone 5 seconds more. Well, it's just that there's a lag in the chat, and I was like, my back hurts. You know what? I'm done. Oh well, everybody should thank General Jack Ripper because he's basically okay, General Jack Ripper, send your address to topic@badgerpod.com and I'll get you set up with something for that. Because I don't think anybody's going to break that $200 today.
Open boob.
No! What? Wait a second. Wait. I gotta what? Or what the fuck did you mean by that? What? Okay, now Brian's being silent.
Did he have to mean anything by it?
No, he didn't. Okay, I'm sorry.
I think your reaction might have scared him away.
Okay.
Maybe he has Tourette's.
So now we're gonna. Did chemotherapy give him Tourette's?
Maybe it did.
And then we're gonna have to deal with Brian occasionally screaming "open boob" like he's having he's interviewing, I don't know, Christina Hoff Sommers and just randomly "open boob."
Or like what I do when somebody forces me to go to church, I wait until the middle of the sermon, the most relevant part, and then I yell, "Lick my ass, lick my ass, lick it, lick it, lick it, lick it."
You know, Brian, you realize now you'd have the perfect excuse to do stuff like this. Because you can just tell people, you know, I had
chemotherapy
The meds make
really
me do it.
affected me.
Yeah,
I
the
know.
chemotherapy affected you can't be mad at a man who developed Tourette's through chemotherapy. You just have to tolerate it.
That's right. You're
I guess
differently
we should
able.
probably continue the video, huh?
Yeah,
yes,
I'm guessing.
we should.
Okay, Mike, continue. I think we've had
Our
too much
geeky
excitement.
hero gets to be framed as the better, smarter, more sensitive alternative. He's the misunderstood nice guy.
Hi, Betty.
Oh God, here it comes.
Yeah, by the way, whether it's like the dangerous jock types or the socially awkward nerdy types, they're never the good guys, because the moral of every story, just like the premise of every joke, is that the women are there to keep them in line. The men don't get it. They don't understand how to be civil, but it's okay, because women are always there to teach men how to be human beings. And let's be clear about this. There's nothing misandric about that. Nothing. It's all misogyny.
Who's unfairly bullied and mocked by his peers.
Hey, not every guy's born with blonde hair and a chin you could crack walnuts with. To catch babes, I had to use my imagination.
He's presented as the clear underdog in the manhood competition.
Okay, get on with it, Mackintosh. Get on with it. It's getting boring.
Oh, Lisa, I love the excitement of chasing you.
Is this a good time to ask you about the dance?
On closer inspection,
These are children. These are fucking children learning how to court each other, and it's fucking early 90s. Saved by the Bell. How are you reading rapiness into Saved by the fucking Bell?
I know
wants to destroy all of our childhoods.
Like, the hilarious thing is that, you know, when I was a kid on the school ground, we used to play the girls chase boys, boys chase girls. You know, if you caught one, you kissed him on the cheek, right? All the girls, right? So you get 3 girls, they chase down a boy. You know, if you catch him, you kiss him on the cheek, and he acts like he hates it. And then the next day at recess, he and his friends are chasing a girl, and they catch her and they kiss her on the cheek, and oh my God, kisses on the cheek. And she acts like, oh my God, that's so horrible, right? And like that's just part of the game.
Art says a kiss on the cheek and then it's a rape in the back alley. You misogynist.
I don't fucking understand this. Like, I don't like these. There are like super, super innocent, sweet kinds of interactions between young women and young men, right? And when I say young women and young men, I mean like from age 8 onward, that are couched in an adversarial nature, because, you know, around 8 years old, they self-segregate by gender typically, and then they come back together at puberty, and then they're trying to figure out. And the reason they actually, anthropologists figure the reason they actually self-segregate at around age 8, when they develop modesty around their private parts and things like that, is that they are preparing for a shift in how they see the opposite sex, right? So they're not playmates anymore. There's something different, right? And throughout that period between age 8 and age 13 or 14, they have this weird kind of girls are gross, boys drool, you know, boys have cooties, girls, you know, are stupid kind of attitude toward each other, in order to maintain their segregation and sort of keep, I think, probably almost intuitively, to keep them from going too far in terms of having forming relationships that could actually become sexual at that age, right? And then they hit puberty, and all of a sudden they're interested in each other again. It's like the most amazing thing. And it's like this, you watch it with an eye towards, you know, that these kids are just finding their way in the world, and you see a certain beauty and a certain sense in it, right? A certain reasonableness to the way that works, right? And this interaction here on Saved by the Bell, this is where they're just coming together again, boys and girls, and figuring out, okay, you're not just that kid I climbed trees with when we were 6, right? Now you're something different. How do I deal with you? Right? And how do I deal with that? And the whole idea that looking at an exaggerated version of the clumsy interactions of young men and women at that age, when they're just trying to figure things out, is some kind of horrible fucking misogyny and male entitlement, that's just gross. That's gross.
It is gross because it doesn't give anybody any leeway to not know what they're doing. Not even a kid.
Yeah.
To not know what they're doing, to not be in a situation where, you know, maybe if they do something wrong, you're like, yeah, it's probably not a good idea to do that. It's a little bit boundary breaking, but you know, you're a kid. Don't feel too bad about it. Just improve your behavior in the future. No, it all has to be this sinister bullshit. And believe me,
yeah, no.
That
If
there were
somebody was
structures
there,
in place. There were structures in place at the time that Saved by the Bell had happened. If that kid was in the locker room of the women's, you know, bathroom, or in a locker in a women's bathroom, he would be reprimanded.
Yeah.
This was not considered acceptable behavior, but to see it as evidence of some kind of universal evil that men
I know.
or not nerds or nerd boys have, it's like, at what point do we just step back and say, hey, can we treat each other with a little kindness?
Well, this guy Screech wants attention from her, and he's going out of his way, and he's going over the top, and he's jumping through all these fucked up hoops, right, to try and get her attention, to try and win her approval or whatever, right? And so that's number one. That's not entitlement, right? You don't hide in a fucking locker because you feel entitled. Unless you're actually gonna, like, when she opens it, grab her and pin her down and freaking have your way with her. You're not hiding in there because you're hiding in there because it's like a grand gesture, and you're hoping to impress her with your grand gesture. I went into the girls' locker room and I hid in a freaking locker for an hour and a half while I was supposed to be in class, and I'm going to be in so much trouble. But I was willing to do this just to get your attention. Oh my God. Right? So, I mean, the entire idea that this is entitlement is ridiculous. The entire idea that it's predatory is also ridiculous, given there's no freaking slits where he can see through. Like, it's not like he's actually, you know, spying on her or anything like that. He can't see anything. He's waiting for her to open the freaking locker with her clothes on, her gym clothes on, to get her regular clothes, right? And it's like, so, I mean, there's just nothing lascivious about it. It's just, hi, here I am. I did something really outlandish to try to get your attention, right? And it's like, if you can't fucking see, and if this kid Screech had somebody normal who was actually fucking coaching him, right? To tell him, okay, that's probably not the best way to get a girl's attention, right? Okay, tame your hair, dress a little better, right? Learn some social skills, and stop being so pushy, right? Stop going over the top, right? Start being more subtle.
Exactly.
Maybe, you know, but
the other boy characters wouldn't.
Has that.
The other boy characters don't do that. Only Screech does that because that's his thing. Like, he's like the nerd. He's the socially awkward one. He's the one that doesn't understand the best way to get a girl's attention. Zach wouldn't hide in, you know, Tiffany Amber Thiessen's locker to get her attention. He doesn't have to because he's the cool kid. So that difference exists for a reason. You know, that's the point.
Well, and I do want to say that one thing that I actually did like about Saved by the Bell is that they did have the cool kid hanging out with a Screech, right? Like they did have this group of kids who were all hanging out together, and they had various levels of, and so I mean, like when it comes to like, I guess, diversity or whatever you want to call it, right? When it came to something like that, they actually didn't just look at ethnic diversity. They actually looked at, okay, so what are the kinds of kids out there, you know? And so you have these kids who started out and they were mostly similar, and then they kind of went their divergent ways, and Screech became a nerd, and this guy became a super popular jockey kind of guy, and this chick got really hot and the whole bit, right? But they're still friends, right? And that's one of the things that I liked about that show. So.
All right, let's do another 20 seconds.
However, we start to notice that these type of characters are shown engaging in a variety of harassing, entitled, and sexist behavior where women are concerned.
Mackintosh, you are missing a whole bunch of context here. If you'll note, you go back and look at these videos, and this is something that has not been addressed up to this point. The women are also engaging in some pretty sexist, well, not sexist, but just sexually predatory behavior as well.
Are shown engaging in a variety of
can you pause it, because it's playing again. Okay.
Trying to find women. I don't think there's any women in this scene though.
No, there's no women in the scene, but there's the context, because I've seen these movies. In fact, I've watched them quite a few times. There is a certain amount of sexually aggressive behavior on the behalf of women, which is never called back out then. And even though we call out the sexual aggression of the men now, we don't call out the sexual aggression of the women now. For example,
whose panties are these?
It's the girl 16 Candles.
Okay, and why does she give him her panties?
Molly Ringwald.
Is it because he went into the stall and he essentially said, you know, can you help me out here, right?
He worked something out with her, right?
It's some sort of deal.
Yeah, and so it's like, okay, so I get you're gonna help me out, I'm gonna help you out, and blah 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 blah, right? And okay, well, yeah, I would help out a kid in that situation. If there was a kid who was like, oh my God, I gotta get somebody's panties, otherwise all these guys are gonna like think I'm a complete freaking loser, right? I'd be like, here, have my panties. Like, okay, I don't have to kiss you, I don't have to make out with you, I don't have to do anything, I just have to give you my panties. Okay, here you go.
Yeah, and it is pretty, it's not actually as bad as he's making it out. Like, she gave him the panties, there's no real coercion here. Yeah, he's showing them all to these kids who are like, oh my God, the sacred object that you've acquired. Oh, let us all bow before it. But it's just ridiculous. Like, so what? Anyway, but what I was trying to point out is that there is some sexually predatory behavior happening with the women. I don't know so much in 16 Candles. I'd have to walk through it and remember it properly. But I remember from Back to the Future. Remember how he got a concussion?
Oh God, yeah.
And she's coming on to him with a concussion. It's like, can you not wait?
He's in bed with his head bandaged, and she's like, I feel like I need to take advantage of you. And the whole thing with the scene that actually makes it super uncomfortable, right? And makes the audience squirm is the fact that he's her son, right? If he wasn't her son, would the audience be squirming?
But the other thing is that even if he wasn't her son, he was responding in such a way that it was really obvious he was not into it.
Yeah, no, but if he wasn't her son, would the audience watching that be squirming? I don't think they would.
Even though he's making it obvious he's not into it. Like, it's a situation where this is like, please stop now, and she's not listening at all.
Yeah,
and that's sexually predatory. Mackintosh is not bringing it up. Here's the thing. back then we had a lot more lenience towards both men and, well, to a much lesser extent men, but men and women sort of quasi breaking the boundaries sexually.
Getting carried away.
Yeah, getting carried away. The lenience that we give women is far beyond what we give men. And yet he is bringing this up and saying that look at the rape culture that we engage in for men. The bullshit. If you look at these movies, there is sexually aggressive predatory behavior on the women's part, and it's often worse than what the men are doing. Okay? So no. Okay, let's do the next 20 seconds.
Got a super chat. Observing Libertarian writes, gives us $5 and says, the attendant awe inspired by a girl's panties in this exact scene is not only the opposite of misogyny, it is the worship of women.
Neutered Joey Jojo gave us $5 and said, can we all just appreciate how beautiful Tiffany Amber Thiessen was in on the show. Yeah. Okay, and observing, yes, we can appreciate that. And observing
Libertarian, she was pretty hot.
Gives us $5 in social justice ideology. Pure fiction, i.e. TV comedy, can be treated as reality because feels is greater than reals. I think it can to treat it as reality because this is some sort of race to the bottom competition to see the world, to see men in the worst possible way.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do the next 20 seconds.
Move on.
Yep.
Sexist behavior where women are concerned. They consistently stalk, spy on, lie to, and try to manipulate the women in their lives.
Not they're consistently, sir. Yeah, they're overbearing because they don't. The joke is that they have no social skills. Like, you know that scene in the Rabbit, the Who Framed Roger Rabbit, when Felina Hyena is being overbearing, and practically, that's the joke.
There's a common old cartoon trope of the desperate and thirsty woman that's like, oh man, and she chases the cartoon, protagonist all over the place to kiss him.
Look at George McFly there up in the tree, right? The whole premise of that, the entire setup, is that he's so pathetic and inept that that's the only way he's ever going to see a woman in her underpants is by climbing up a tree and looking through binoculars. Right? That is the entire thing. It's not excusing what he's doing. It's essentially setting him up as just the most pathetic character, the most pathetic man on the face of the planet who can only get access because, this is the 1950s or whatever, and there's no internet porn, right? So he's not going to be able to see a woman in her bra and panties any other way ever. Right? Yep. So that's not there to make him look like he's a pinnacle of masculinity because he's being a peeping Tom. It's making him look sad and pathetic, like a flasher, some fucking dude in a trench coat who exposes his genitals to little kids. Right?
Well, yeah, but not quite as bad.
Not as bad, but just
it's not
pathetic
this
in
isn't
that
being
way.
Presented as something that you're supposed to do. Yeah, right. It's being presented as pathetic. And I'm not quite sure how they're trying to present the fact that his mom or this guy's wife, future wife, is apparently really interested in anything that ends up in her bed. That I don't think that's necessarily
wearing Calvin Klein underwear. Yeah,
that I don't think that's seen as necessarily sexually predatory. But the thing is that he's looking at this. First of all, he's saying they constantly stalk and harass and lie. Bullshit. No, they don't. They're not constantly doing this, first of all. Second of all, the joke is that they are socially overbearing because they don't have an understanding of social cues. In this situation, not only is Jonathan Mackintosh using this to present the idea that this happens constantly in these stories, he's also omitting the context that his mother was sexually predatory too. They're both fucking sexual weirdos.
Well, I don't even think this indicates sexual weirdism, right? Because essentially, when you are if you are one of those guys who's just never going to be able to see it any other way, maybe this is the way that you would, I don't know, desperation would make you freaking try, right? And the thing is, he immediately gets punished by karma, I guess, for doing this in terms of falling out of the tree, right? But when you're looking at this, right, compared to what Marty McFly's mother does to Marty, right? This woman here isn't even aware. She's not even aware that she's being victimized. This guy isn't actually imposing anything on her. He's not making her feel afraid. He's not anything.
And first of all, and okay, I don't mean to say that but look at this setup. She's dressing in front of a window facing a street.
Out on the street, yeah, with the window open, the blinds up. Yep.
Yep. Anybody could see her from the sidewalk. He's just getting up there for a better view. I'm just putting it out there. This woman seems a little not voyeuristic, a little bit exhibitionist.
Actually, one of the first sexual memories my boyfriend has is of driving by the Rent a Room by the Hour Hotel, which is just a few blocks away, and seeing a woman completely topless leaning out one of the open windows and hollering down an invitation to one of the guys in the parking lot. Right? And like, he's just like, he was 5 and he's like, wow, the hell is that?
Okay. A little disturbing, but let's move on. I think, anyway.
Spy on, lie to, and try to manipulate the women in their lives.
Bullshit! Lying to and manipulating what? Where? I guess he's talking about that scene where in the Nerds where he dresses up as Darth Vader and she's into it at the end.
I don't fucking know. I don't know. I mean, like, okay, so guys will beg, cheat, lie, and steal, right? It's like that CeeLo Green fucking video, fuck you. Beg and cheat, and I'm willing to beg and cheat and lie and steal just to please you, just to keep you. So what does that say about women? If men have to beg and cheat and lie and steal just to please them.
The other thing is that if you're not so concerned about women's approval, you don't really. And I'm reading this book, and it was just this really weird set of events that got me to finding out about this book. Somebody had tweeted something about, I have the author, and someone pinged me, tagged me in this tweet. The author said, I mentioned men's rights activists. I just give them 2 polite pages. And then he insinuates that we're going to, I don't know, swarm him and be angry. And I'm like, okay, what the fuck is this? I'm like, you know what? Whatever. You're a bully. Leave me alone. And then I got into an exchange. So someone brought it up again and said, you saying that he's bullying us, and it is, impugning malice when none exists is a form of bullying. Is vituperative. And I'm like, okay, whatever. It's vituperative. What is this about? Because I have no clue what any of this is about. So I go back up the Twitter chain. I'm like, okay, so this is somebody's novel that they've written. And then I go to Amazon, and yes, I got a copy. And I'm reading it, and I found the chapter in which he references men's rights activists. And I'm reading this chapter, and he's retelling his life as a horny 19-year-old boy going to college for the first couple of years. And he has absolutely no forgiveness for himself or anything that he does. And he also has no concept. He doesn't seem to have any concept of the behavior of the women he's with being actually very poor too. And it's like, and I'm reading this, and now I've forgotten why I even brought it up. But I'm reading this, and I'm like, wow, this is no forgiveness for any of this kind of behavior, incredibly judgmental about it. And what was I saying before I started this so I can sort of reconstruct my point? Sorry, guys. What was it?
It was the beg
oh,
and
right,
lie and steal.
okay, beg, cheat, buy, and steal. Yeah. And I was thinking, as he's lying to women, first of all, he had this girlfriend named Mags, and she was horrifyingly abusive. Like I'm reading her sex talk while they were having sex is like, oh, you know, why don't you go up a bit? Maybe okay, that's okay. But a little harder so I don't fall asleep. Oh, it looks like you can't get an erection. Way to be a joke. That kind of thing. And I'm
Oh
like,
my.
oh my fucking God, this woman is abusive. So he and she's like talking about, oh, it's great to be exclusive. I'm sure that what he did in response is the you know, like the shuck and jive and not really answering in the affirmative. And so he has this abusive quote unquote girlfriend, and he goes out and he tries to pick up other girls at this party. And he's not being clear to this woman that, yeah, you're a fucktard from fucktardia. So, but the reason why he isn't is because he's so absolutely obsessed with women's approval. If he wasn't, he would have been completely honest with all of the women he was with. All of them. He would have said, "You know what, Mags, you're a bitch. I'm not going to tolerate this behavior because it's abusive and it's violating my boundaries. And I'm not going to cheat around behind your back. I'm just going to kick you to the curb." And then to the two girls who were, and it's just bizarre situation of entitlement with the girls too. Not his entitlement to them, but their entitlement to him. Based on what?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, they would apparently share a dance, and then they were boyfriend girlfriend. That's entitlement. You know, and then they would get pissed that, you know, they have a dance with him, they disappear, and he goes and finds someone else. And then they find out that he's found someone else, and they get pissed. And it's like, what- on the one hand, he was so obsessed with women's approval that he could not be honest with them for fear of upsetting them. And on the other hand, he's tolerating such levels of entitlement and abuse in women that it's obscene. And I'm like, I'm reading this and I'm like, you know, you think as a men's rights advocate myself, you think that I'm going to read this and be like, ah, blah, 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 vituperative or something. I'm reading this and I'm like, dude, you need to step back, calm down, forgive yourself.
Yeah.
You need to spend some, you need to just let yourself sit with the notion that you were a 19-year-old boy with a lot of other abusive people, and that's what happens when young people are getting into relationships. They don't fucking know their boundaries. They don't know how to behave appropriately to a significant other. And this was just a situation where you're going to make a lot of mistakes, get people upset, and people are going to upset you. You learn from it, you forgive yourself, you just do better next time, and you make sure that your partner does better by you as well. And all I was hearing from him was this incredible level of judgment. And then at the end of the chapter, and it was really hilarious because this whole chapter was basically autobiographical. Like the whole book is autobiographical. And then suddenly he switches into a political rant, and I'm like, the way I described it to one of our patrons is like you're at a dinner party and the chef is not bad, not a great chef, but he's laid out this nice supper and you're sort of enjoying it. It's not the best food you've ever eaten, but hey, you're not cooking, so there you go. And then the chef at one point says, "Excuse me," gets up on the table, pulls down his pants, and takes a shit on the second course. And you're like looking at this and you're like, why did you do that? Why did you insert this slightly unpleasant, well, no, very unpleasant political rant right in the middle of something autobiographical? It just doesn't fit. And and part of the horror of it is it doesn't fit. Anyway, I'll continue. I'll let you guys continue. But anyway, if these guys had less of a worshipful desire for women's approval, they would be more honest and treat them with more integrity. Simple as that. Okay. Did you want to say anything, Mike?
No. No. Just no.
Okay.
All right.
They refuse to take no for an answer, and they often ignore the basic tenets of consent.
They are socially awkward. And like I said before, the women are also ignoring the basic tenets of consent, often worse than the men.
Yes.
Just putting it out there. There was a lot of that in like 80s and 70s and way back. You know, there's no when you look at the relative rate of women ignoring men's boundaries versus men ignoring women's boundaries, generally the women ignoring men's boundary was worse and more acceptably worse than the men ignoring women's boundaries. Okay, because this is not considered acceptable behavior, even in the environments in which it was done. Because I'm pretty sure what happened here to this guy?
Yeah.
Nothing? Continue.
Yeah, no.
I feel like I'm not being listened to, but that's okay. Let's go.
You are. Okay. Mike.
Are we ready to continue?
Yes.
Okay.
Most of this behavior falls under the rubric of sexual harassment. And occasionally
he's running away from them.
It's to the level of sexual
go on.
assault. Both Revenge of the Nerds and 16 Candles include scenes in which geeky nice guys commit acts of rape.
Okay.
This type of behavior...
All right, stop right there. This was a bit weird. But at the end of the day, she seemed to be into it. And you're kink shaming her, JMac. Because if she was into it, it's a kink. And I don't know how, maybe he figured it out from some sort of observation of her, but if she wasn't into it, she wouldn't have responded in the way she did. She was fucking into it, dude. And the other woman, also the same thing. Her partner, her boyfriend said that she essentially gets drunk, passed out drunk, and has sex, and that's something she does for fun. Wow, holy shit, someone's drag racing by your house there, Karen.
Sorry.
Okay, well, it's not really your fault, but it's still... So, we've already established that the woman in 16 Candles actually does this by her own volition. She sets this up by her own volition. And I remember this one log of conquests that this girl had from a high school or a university where she would describe this. So she was also into it. There are women who are into this shit.
Mm-hmm.
And there are men who are into it. And it is in many ways quite fucked up and something that I would probably never want to engage in or think too carefully about. But I can understand that I can just leave them to it. You know, this is their thing. This is how they like to express themselves sexually. I'm not going to judge. And that woman who had that list of conquests in university, she would rate the sex based on how out of it she was and how violent the guy was. And I'm like, okay, all right, that's your thing. But this is what JMac is doing, because these women never, in all of this, they never express any discomfort with the sex that's happened. He is kink shaming these women. He's saying that they have to have sex the way he thinks they should have sex. And he is going to define for them, because these women represent women that actually exist. Because I've read their memoirs of their conquests. There are women out here who really love these kinds of scenarios. Scary as fuck. If I were a man, I would stay far, far away from them, but whatever. I'm going to shame them not because, I think that what they want is necessarily bad, but because, in the current political climate, giving them what they want is a really dangerous proposition for men. But regardless, there are women like that. They have every right to what they find desirable and expressing it. And if you don't have a right to judge them after the fact and tell them that their sexual desires are anything but what they are. So JMac, you can take your misogynist high horse and I I don't know, do something vaguely sexual with it.
I would suggest insert his penis into the horse's mouth.
That's actually horrifying.
Yeah. That's exactly right.
The horse is probably a fascist. Fuck a fascist horse in the mouth.
Fuck a fascist horse in the mouth.
Make sure it's a horse with really good teeth.
All
right.
Let's
move on.
I think this is going to be the last 20 seconds. This last 20 seconds.
As reprehensible. I say should be, because
it should be understood as reprehensible. It should be understood as reprehensible, even though the women in question were fine with it. Okay, so what other sexuality do you consider? When a woman is fine with it, do you consider you have the right to call reprehensible? JMac? And who gave you that position of power? Because that's what this is. In both cases, the women were okay with it. Which, you know, like retroactive consent is sort of a scary thing, but they still were okay with it. Which doesn't make what happened reprehensible. And first of all, and another thing, we don't even know what happened with the 16 candles situation. Wasn't he pretty drunk too? I don't remember.
I don't remember either. Sorry.
Yeah. Jesus. Anyway. Okay, let's do the last 20 seconds.
These TV shows and movies frame it.
Are you guys ready? Wait, hold on.
Instead, this behavior is framed as kind of pathetic,
You guys know what you're doing here or what?
but ultimately harmless.
How's this look?
And even endearing in an adorable sort of way.
Well, he didn't do anything to her. He just posed for a picture.
Fucking. Oh God, he just posed for a fucking picture. He didn't stick.
And then she decided that she was into him.
Oh my God.
Which was really weird, but okay, so let's see this next scene.
You're that nerd.
Yeah.
God, you are wonderful.
Okay.
And it's the adorkable part of the adorkable misogynist.
Okay, all right, JMac, I'm going to introduce you to this concept called fantasy. She's smiling now. Now, the thing with fantasy is that because it doesn't exist within the headscape of anybody but the one creating the fantasy, consent doesn't make any sense in the context of fantasy.
Well, what I want to say too is like, okay, so why isn't he reaming all of womanhood for making 50 Shades of Grey the fastest selling book ever written?
Because he can't. Not until he establishes his sexual principles in law, and then he can.
Well, what's infuriating to me is that, oh my fucking God, you fucking trucks, is that essentially this might be a nerd's fantasy, just like a lot of porn, especially old porn, right? From the 1970s and the 80s, you know, the stuff that had Ron Jeremy in it. And it was like, yeah, a guy who looks like Ron Jeremy can score hot chicks. It's like the most amazing thing. Oh my God. Right. When in reality, life just doesn't generally work like that. Right. So this is a fantasy of a nerd, right? An unattractive guy getting with a hot chick, and she really, really, really decides that she likes him. But here's the thing, right? It's not the sex that made him smile like this, right? It's the fact that she's like, oh, it was you. Wow. I think I like you. Right? I think I actually like you. So it's like literally it's not a fantasy about rape, it's a fantasy about a woman choosing to have a relationship with this guy. Right? That's what the entire fantasy is.
But here's the other thing. When the person was writing this, and this is why this is different than real life, because real life standards have to be what they are. But in fantasy, I guarantee that he wrote from the smile backwards. He wrote from the consent backwards. So the consent was always there. Because that's how it works in fantasy. There's only one mind creating the fantasy. And if you're writing from consent backwards, then it was always about this woman consenting to this guy. Do you see what I'm saying?
Well, not just consenting to the sex, though. I mean, and I think that this can't be stressed enough. Is that if this scene had played out where, I don't know, they had a long conversation while he was in a Darth Vader hood with his voice modulated, and she didn't know who he was, and she was just really attracted to him, and she said, I really like you. And he took his freaking hood off, right? And he was like, it's me. And she'd be like, oh, it's you. And then she had that moment of recognition and understanding that, oh my God, this is a nerd, and then smiled at him. It would be the same fucking happy ending.
Yep, it is. It's about a social connection. But the thing is, like I said, I guarantee that this was written from the smile backward, from the consent backward. And this is why you can't judge fantasy and fiction by the same standards as you judge situations in real life. Because this was not written as a rape scene. I guarantee it was patently, and this is why I don't think we should judge things like romance novels, because they're also written from that standard. They're written from the consent backwards. So the consent is always there. It's
from
just
the happily ever after backwards.
Yeah, they're written from the happily ever after backwards. And just like this scene was written from the smile backwards. And so in whoever created it, the consent was always there in this character. She would never have said no. She would never have experienced this thing, woken up and said, no, I'm not. And this is his, like, it's the fantasy of the person who's experiencing that. It's not entitlement. It's just a fantasy.
But men aren't allowed to have fantasies, Alison.
Yeah, I know.
If you tell men that they're allowed to have fantasies, next thing you know, they'll feel entitled to them.
I think you're just not allowed to create a deterministic system in which a woman consents.
Oh, God. In which any woman would ever consent ever, under any circumstances. This is really where we're going.
All right. Shall we carry on?
I think Alison said something about this being the last clip we would do, and then we're going to move to the after show, I'm guessing.
We can do that.
Because I've got an hour and 15 minutes myself before I have to drag myself away from here and actually cook something for the people in my house who happen to live with me, but who I don't really want to know or spend time with. So, just saying.
Right. Well, we haven't had a super chat for a while. I guess we can stop.
No, I think we've covered all the points that really, and we will continue in the after show. And if you guys are interested in joining us in the after show, you can go on Patreon, www.patreon.com.
A super chat for $2.
Okay, no more man tasing. #feminism from Yen T's cap. All right, but we do have to go because we gotta entertain the peeps that make it possible to present a lot of our stuff for free. So, with that, let us adjourn.
Bye, everyone.
For real this time.